You can be what you wanna be if you do what you gotta do. It all happens at Hilary's house, where all you gotta be is you.
Hey everyone, happy Friday! Welcome to Hilary's house. This is Hilary's house, episode number 1. I am very excited. I am so excited about Hilary's house. I've had this idea for 5 or 6 years, and as is often the case, I am finally doing something that I should have done a while ago. So just, being consistent in that realm of my life. One of my favorite pieces of Hilary's house is that it reminds me of when I was in college and babysitting a lovely, lovely young lady, and we had something that we called Camp Hilary. The difference between Camp Hilary was that the slogan, the motto for Camp Hilary was, "Do it your way." Clearly not that much different than Hilary's house. I think the primary difference between Camp Hilary and Hilary's house is that Camp Hilary is like, do it your way, yeah! Hilary's house is like, still, do it your way, yeah! But be prepared to do the work, because you can't do it your way. You can't have the amazing experiences if you're not prepared to do the work. And one of the things that I think you'll find with most, if not all, of the people who will be visiting and hanging out here at Hilary's house is that they are incredible individuals. They've lived amazing lives for as long as they've been here. They've done amazing things. They have incredible stories. They have just so many experiences and so much wisdom to offer. And they have had amazing lives and have amazing stories because they've been willing to pay the price that comes with having an amazing life and having an amazing story and having these amazing experiences. And so that's a very major theme of Hilary's house is if you want to have fun, you got to be prepared to do the work. If you want the thing you want, you have to be prepared to do the work. Luckily, doing the work does not always have to be hard. It's frequently hard. Life is hard. That comes up in this particular episode. But it should also be fun. Because if it's not fun, what's the point? Right? And so Hilary's house is meant to be a place where people can come, hang out, have fun, and talk about really serious things. This is going to be a really real space. The conversations are going to be really real. So be prepared for that. I'm really excited about today's episode, which is with my very good friend, Andy Vantrease, who I first met when I was working at Harvest Market Natural Foods, which is an amazing natural grocer in Hockessin, Delaware. And I specifically want to bring that up because I think another piece of Hilary's house that I'm already seeing and feeling and experiencing as I'm creating my list of invitees and inviting people to come on is that many of the people who you will be introduced to at Hilary's house are people who have belief systems, engage in practices, have ways of being that are now or were unconventional in the environments in which they're located currently or in the environments in which they were located at various points in their lives. And I think this is an important point because I think that there's a certain level of strength and conviction and integrity that's required of people who are doing any kind of work, have any belief system, any practice, whether it's something that I agree with or believe or not, that is counter to that which is conventional in the worlds in which they live. And there's something to that, I have found, personal observation for myself and others who I know. Andy is an amazing storyteller and an amazing writer. I'm going to leave links to some of her writing below so that you can check it out, especially after you listen to this episode. You may be more interested in reading some of her work and seeing more about what she's about, what she's been doing, her travels all over the world, and her own personal journey with a lot of different things many of which she discusses during this episode.
I'm going to leave Andy's contact information below so that if you want to get in touch with her, you can, if you're interested in learning more about her experience or you're interested in connecting with her because something that she's spoken about has touched you or inspired you. I do know that she's also absolutely looking to connect with doulas and midwives. She wants to learn more about what a midwife and a doula does and what that looks like on an everyday basis. She's also interested in learning more about why you've chosen to become a midwife or why you've chosen to become a doula. As you'll find in this episode, Andy loves hearing and learning about other people's stories and why they've come to do and be what they've come to do and be. So if you're interested in connecting with her or you're willing to share with her why you have personally become a doula or midwife, please contact her with the information below.
Finally, if you are watching this on YouTube, please like this video, please subscribe to this channel, and please click on that little bell so that you can be notified when new videos are posted. I will be posting lots of different kinds of videos regularly, including the podcast video. I'm really excited to be here with you. I'm really excited about this particular podcast and really excited to share with you some of the amazing people who I have encountered on my own journey. Welcome to Hilary's house.
Hey, Andy.
Hi. How's it
How
going?
are you? It's going well. How are you?
I'm really good today.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Andy and I won this contest with Ritual Zero Proof, where we both won a bottle of Ritual Zero Proof gin.
Yes,
Or
we
they have two
did.
things, so we got to choose what we wanted, but we both chose the same thing. So we're both drinking our Ritual Zero Proof gin. You can't see mine with the background. I of course have the island background. We both have our gin cocktails. So tell us what you created for this fine event.
For this fine event, I created a classic gin and tonic with many, many limes and some ice on this nice 60-degree sunny day out of my Moscow Mule cup that I actually got. You know where I got this mug from? Doug at...
I was going to say, it looks like a State and Union.
Yep, it is a State and Union local United by Blue cup.
That's awesome.
It's
From
amazing.
Kennett Square, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And I made a cucumber and Thai basil with Ritual Zero Proof gin and frozen pineapples and
Yum.
just the lime for decoration because it'll overpower the rest. But it had to be and I always drink out of a jar, just for anyone you'll see me drinking many different things. They'll all be in the same receptacle because it's the only kind of receptacle that I drink.
Why not?
You know, they're sturdy. They're sturdy. Awesome.
I dig it.
So where are you? Tell everyone where you are currently located.
I am currently at my family's house in Newark, Delaware.
Awesome. What's happening in
So
Newark?
Spring is here, which is amazing. Coming from Montana, you know, it was like 30 in the 30s, 20s, 30s, and then I got here in early March, and spring has arrived, which is really exciting. And my body, like, it feels so good to my body. I was sitting outside in the sun today, and I went for a long bike ride by the canal today, and it's just like, it feels so good to be getting natural vitamin D.
Yes. It's
So
important.
that's pretty much what's going on here
That's
in my
awesome.
world. I'm just like, I don't know, what are the seasons doing?
What are the seasons doing?
What
The
is the
seasons
earth
are a
doing?
little bit more subtle here in San Diego.
Yeah.
We're getting ready to enter the cloudy season. There's pretty much two seasons, cloudy and sunny.
Oh
Getting
yeah,
ready
the
to
June.
June gloom and May gray.
Oh yeah. But after that, you're like, I mean, every other time of year, isn't it?
Yeah, no one's feeling
Like-
bad.
No
No,
one's feeling bad.
10 months out of the year you get sun.
Yeah, sunny and warm. I mean, it's cool in the winter, but
Yeah.
I mean, but not really cool, like 60.
Yeah. Yeah. Evening chill.
Yeah. Everyone, including me, has their furry, their
Wait, what? Oh my gosh.
I know. That's the same way in the Bahamas.
It's amazing what happens to our bodies when we get like used to. Yeah.
It is
It's
so
like our
amazing.
bodies get used to that weather. And then, you know, even here, it was like, you know, in this mid 70s. No, it was probably like low 70s last week.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like laughing so hard at my parents because it went down to like 55 and they're like, it's freezing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't know if it is.
Yeah.
But it just, yeah, you get that chill. It's like, it's strange.
Yeah. When I lived in New Hampshire, I was farming, I was working outside every day. And it was the snowiest winter on record. And if it got to 35, I would be outside in a t-shirt.
Yep.
So cold all the time, like so cold, and that felt warm. Plus, again, I was working outside, but like now the thought of wearing a t-shirt in 35, there's no amount of running, exercise, anything that would have Hilary outside in 35 degrees in a t-shirt.
No.
Not
I
happening.
can't actually even picture that.
Me neither. So this is the first podcast.
Yes.
First Hilary's House podcast. Really excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Andy and I have been friends for 4 years, 5 years.
4 years. Yeah.
Many lifetimes.
Yeah.
And also 4 years. We met working at Harvest Market. Hey, Harvest Market.
Shout out.
Shout out to Harvest Market in Hocus, Delaware. And we have continued to be friends. We have
over many thousands of miles.
Between the two of us, we have traveled a whole lot in our time of knowing each other. Moved around both of us moved all the time.
Well, and it's so cool because since we met in Delaware, we've never lived in the same place.
That's true.
So it's always like, it's such a fun thing to share the experiences that we're each having from wherever, Mississippi,
all the different places, yeah.
Montana,
Florida,
Delaware, California, Nepal,
Asia,
Florida.
Yeah.
So many places.
The Himalayas. Was I in the Himalayas yesterday?
Casual.
Just casual, man. Just casual. And here we are. So it's exciting to have you here. And one of the things that I really want this podcast to be is just talking to people who are really interesting people, who are doing really fun and interesting things, who are thoughtful, who have had a lot of different experiences, and not make it about, so, tell us what you do, or so, tell us where you're from, because most likely the people who I'm going to have on here don't do one particular thing and are not from one particular place. So Andy is such a multi-talented human being, just so multi-talented, extremely intuitive, extremely creative, extremely intelligent. But one of her really amazing gifts is telling stories. And one of the things that I've been really interested in for a very long time is creation stories and origin stories, and really how we come into being. What are the catalysts, the events in our lives that cause us to be however we are? So the one thing that I really wanted to talk to you about, or at least start with, is how would you define your origin story?
Like a lot of my personal work and a lot of my self-discovery journey and reclamation has been the journey back to my body as the creator of my consciousness and the creator of my reality. And what I mean by that is like, I think I spent such a long time in my teens and early 20s having kind of abandoned my body, abandoned my feelings, abandoned like what it is that it means to live in this particular body, and all of the things that come with that. And so when I think of kind of my creation story, I think of where I began to like awaken into this form of remembering, like remembering, but actually remembering my body. So not being cut off from different parts of myself. And the more work that I have done with that, and I can talk a little bit about that if that's helpful, but the more work that I've done with that, the more I realize that who I am and like what this beautiful being is just a form of creation that kind of comes from everything around me. We've already gone into like what's happening with the earth, because to me, like my body is so connected to the seasons and so connected to, you know, the blossoming and blooming that's happening outside my window right now, and so connected to the fall when things are disintegrating and the winter when things are dying and regenerating. And so it's like my story these days has really aligned with what it means to reintegrate myself into that natural rhythm of things. Yeah, I mean that's kind of what I'm into. Part of me wants to go, I grew up here and I went, you know what I mean? Like, and then I went through this and then I went through that. And as a storyteller, like I go back through those things when I'm trying to make sense of my life and where was I in the past, what am I working on now? What do I want to continue to become or unbecome? But kind of at the end of the day, it all comes back to what it means to live in this body and what it means to inhabit this form of creation that I happen to be in right now.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's exciting you right now? What's jazzing you right now?
I got my human design profile the other day.
Okay. Can you talk about what human design is?
I am told, I have read that it's like a system of understanding that puts together astrology, the I Ching, the chakras, and the Kabbalah, and is this really like intricate, detailed system that teaches you about yourself for you to navigate like your the energy within your body, and then how you navigate and interact with the world. That's really exciting me right now, because obviously, you know me, I'm like such a junkie for self-discovery systems and methods, and like I just love the gathering of information of things that could be helpful for me to understand myself better. It's like this continuous like digging of the well, and using all different traditions, all different methodologies, just like taking from everything that I can get my hands on and seeing what feels true to me and what feels helpful. So it's exciting because what came back was that I was in a category called projector. Like my role in kind of the creative process of the world is to guide and refine energy rather than like manifest it or generate it myself. So it's really interesting, and a lot of it hit home with me about how the people that are in this projector category aren't necessarily made to be like this 9-to-5 hustle type of person that like, you know, wakes up with the sun and can bust out work all day and go to sleep exhausted and do it again. And I feel like a lot of my life I have tried to fit into that. You know, that's what's rewarded, that's the way you become successful and all that. And I just have never felt like that was like my natural rhythm. And so to hear that, you know, based on this human design thing, to hear that I'm somebody who is more of the seer rather than the doer, can kind of look at things and say, well, maybe we can tweak it like this, or maybe there's a different way, but I have to kind of take existing things and look at them and see that there's a different way. The woman that I worked with, she went into pretty close detail of like, these types of people usually like to take naps. And I was like, yes. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, my naps are justified.
Naps are always justified, just so that everybody knows.
This
Naps
is true.
Are always
this is very true. And so just things like that, where she, you know, she was saying like, you know, ideally you might have like 3 hours of output per day, like offering your gifts to other people. And the rest of the time is really spent cultivating your gifts and honing in on what it is that you're researching and all this stuff. And it just felt very true to me.
That's awesome.
It felt very good for like, okay, this is who I am. You know, I have felt like that for a while. So I'm digging into that some more. And that is obviously got me all jacked up.
Do you feel like it's important to have these various systems? You're talking about, you know, there's all these different kinds of systems, different archetypal systems, divination systems, to help people understand their energy better. Do you think that that's important for you? And if so, why is that important for you?
It has become very important for me. I think it's really fun to just have these different systems, I guess we keep calling them, that can give you a new perspective on yourself. Like I think a lot of times, and I would venture to say that a lot of people come up against this, but I'll speak to my own experience of like, it's hard for me to see what other people see in me. What I like about a lot of these things is that it's based on, you know, astrology is like based on your birthday and your birth time and place and, you know, what was happening in the cosmos when you were born. It's not like, do you think that it's not a personality test, right? You know? And I think that, like I definitely can get caught up in my mind of like, well, do I do that or do I not or whatever? So a lot of these energetic based systems are really helpful to me because it like cuts through the mind, or it cuts through the perception I may have of myself, and then just kind of shows like the innate traits or things that could be innate to me. So I find it really helpful because I've come to think of it like we have so many things in our world right now that we kind of bump up against as like advertisements and media, and even like what you're learning in school, and like so many messages of things that like, you know, are ideal or whatever it is, you know, that you're kind of like looking outward at for, well, should I be that, or am I that? Or it's just always this kind of like dance with all the messages that you get on a daily basis when you come into this world. And these systems for me are kind of like a counter to that. It's giving me something to work with that's not necessarily outside of myself. Even though it's coming from a system that's outside of myself, it's more about cultivating what's inside and learning how to use that and use that to navigate all the other shit that's going on.
Yeah. I think that's also, you know, depends on who you work with, right? Because a lot of people who engage with some of these various systems don't have that kind of approach. It's, well, this is how it is.
I'm not into like dogmatic
super
anything.
Cut and dry, black and white. Yeah.
I think I'm very open to a lot of different things. So naturally the practitioners or the facilitators that I tend to gravitate towards or work with are much more open as well. Right. With like, you know, this is one sliver of a massive pie. And if it's helpful for you, great. If it's not, maybe it's not your thing, and that's okay. I'm not on board with like any one thing works for everybody.
Right.
It's just not realistic. I always think about your quote of like, medicine is anything in the correct dose, or what you say it, because I always butcher it, but in my mind it's like
the right dose of the right thing at the right time, administered by the right person.
right, is medicine. And so, you know, like I said, I'm kind of a junkie to all of these things, and sometimes it can be a little much, and I'll have to back off and say, okay, I'm like done with gathering information for a while. But a lot of times it just happens to be like, I really trust with something comes up in me and I say, oh, I think I would really benefit from going to, you know, an astrologer, or even like a lot of hands-on things. Like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was having these headaches and I had them for like a month, and they were all up in my jaw and all up in my temples. And I was like, I have to go see this chiropractor. She's like an energetic chiropractor. She does what's called biogeometric integration, I think, BGI. And I just like trusted my sense that that is exactly what I needed. And we were able to work through a lot of things, and she cleared a lot of things. And so it's like anytime I have this urge to go see a facilitator or a healer in that way, I just am like, this might be the medicine that I need right now. I heard a really cool thing today that I couldn't wait to tell you about. When I was biking, I was listening to this podcast called Inner Truth. And there was a guy on as the guest today that was talking about, he was basically talking about like COVID as the plant medicine that we've all ingested right now.
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about like, there's all these ways that we seek growth and enlightenment and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, we have all these tiers of like, well, I can't do it now because I have to, you know, I don't have time, or I don't have time to meditate, or I don't have, you know, whatever. And he was basically my takeaway from what he was saying was like, there is no then and now and normal and not normal, and, you know, whatever all of this is, like, we're in it.
Yeah.
This is the adversity that leads to the growth. Yeah. Like, this is the only way to look at it. If something like, if you're going to take this in as a life experience that you change from. And I just thought it was so cool how he was like, you know, you go to trips to Peru to take ayahuasca, and you go and you take, you know, magic mushrooms, and you do all this. He's like, hello, here's the COVID-19 dose.
Yep.
You know, and he's like, we are in it. This is the journey. And we're all in this collective journey, having all of these different experiences. Don't miss it.
Yeah, there's a guy I'm connected to on Facebook who's like, welcome to the longest ayahuasca journey in the history of the world.
Yeah. I know. It's like, oh gosh, it's such a good way to look at it. Because then you really, I mean, all I know to do in those types of journeys is like ride the wave and look at the things that you're being asked to look at. So I don't know. I found that really helpful today.
In the kind of like spiritual, quote unquote, community, there is this kind of, well, you have to do this, and we now all need to do these things. We all need to go do that. And everyone now needs to meditate. First of all, I am not about telling people how to feel or telling people what to do when they're in a moment. I mean, again, this is, I think, a healing journey. But when people are going through plant medicine ceremonies, right, or any kind of altered state of consciousness journey, the people who guide them are just guides, right? They're sitters. They don't do anything. They don't tell the person. They let what needs to emerge, because everyone's tapping into the collective consciousness in their own particular way. And so no one can tell another person what they're experiencing, what they're going to experience, how they're feeling, how they should be feeling, any of that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I want to use it as a time to move through some things, to end some things, complete some things. For me, it's definitely a part of this rebirth process that's been going on for a while now. But the things that I feel really called to and really guided to seem so obvious now. you know, and the practitioner. So this is really to respond to what you were saying earlier about if somebody feels like they should be the right person, or it feels like the right guide, or it feels like the right practice, like it's just very obvious to me now. It's not like, well, sure, should I do that? It's like, no, that thing right there, I have to do. It's like, I have to do that. And this is clearly the right thing. To me, that's an amazing aspect of this time. Generally, it's just such a clarifier. Collective Saturn return, right? It's very clear who I want to connect with, who I don't want to connect with, who do you want to be stuck with, and where do you want to be stuck.
I've even had, I had a really interesting experience the past 2 weeks where a woman asked me to be a part of a project that I had said no to a couple months ago because I was like super busy. And it was a no for me at the time. And then once I, you know, the situation I'm in now, I was kind of like, I wonder if I should just do that to, you know, make some money at this time since I'm not working too much. And I went back to her and I said, hey, okay, like I'm, you know, I have time, I'm kind of interested. And then my body was like, no, you're not, you're still not, you know, it just didn't really like line up with what I was wanting to be doing. And I had said yes. And then, you know, she said, well, okay, give me a call. And I didn't call that day. And then I didn't call the next day. And then I didn't call for like a week. And she texted me yesterday and said, I'm going to release you from this project. And she basically could feel that it wasn't something that I wanted to take on right now. And I had talked myself into wanting to take it on because the circumstances, you know, were different. But like you said, it's such a clarifier. And I was so thankful for her to realize that and kind of read between the lines and just say, I'm going to release you from it. It's going in a different direction. Let's stay in touch. You know, love you to pieces.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But like, I can tell that this is not something that you're really jazzed about. When your body is clear about something, it's like, it's clear. And it seems to me that it's like my mind that always is like, well, maybe.
It is the mind is like, well,
justifying all the justifying things. So yeah, it's nice to hear that you're having clarity around that.
Clarity around everything.
That's exciting.
Things I don't want clarity around.
Yeah. Can we keep that one blurry, please? Thank you. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's good.
Take a sip of your drink. Is the lighting still okay here?
Yes, it's good. Is the lighting still okay here?
It's like
you know what I'm doing tonight?
What?
Do you know Tatiana Terrell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
She's doing this thing, serpentine meditations, where you open up your Akashic records.
What's that?
It's essentially like opening up your ability to tap into multiple dimensions at one time. I mean, it's really interesting because it's kind of like changing timelines, allowing yourself to see all kinds of different timelines. So tapping into the trajectory that you're on at one particular time. But what was really interesting in what I was reading today is that they're saying, you know, it's essentially like a way of tapping into, you know, the quantum field. You're tapping into the string. It was really interesting. And cool. I'm just really excited about that experience.
You've been definitely like a huge like advocate and proponent of her work for a long time.
For a long time. So I'm really excited about this. It will be my third ancestral ceremony this month. So going hard.
I feel like one of the things of this time period that is one of the coolest things is how many people are showing up and offering classes and courses and ceremonies and rituals. And I mean, I've done a lot of yoga classes, and I'm also doing that sacred sexuality course
with Violet.
Yeah, that's been really good. Violet Lang, she's incredible.
Violet Lang.
She is the one. And you showed me to her I signed up for her class one day later. I was like, yeah, this sounds right. It's been really good. It's like, I was telling a friend about it yesterday. A lot of what has come up for me has been surprising, and it just feels really, really good to sit in a group of women, virtually, yet it feels very connected. And just, I feel like a lot of the women's circles I've done in the past have been like people that I know. Like I know the instructor, or, I know the kind of the space holder, and I know some of the women in the class, which is always really sweet. And I feel like I can open up in situations where I know a couple people, but I didn't know Violet at all. I didn't know any of the women in it. And it's certainly been a way to feel connected and to feel like I'm still kind of like coming across people that are, seeking similar things for different reasons, or different things for similar reasons, or, things like that, where it's been really nice to be in a circle again, especially right now.
Yeah.
And talking about topics that I've never been in a circle about, and it's so much for me, just realizing like how important it is to come together as women. I mean, that's one thing for me that's just like always such a this feels good type of thing, where it's like I just feel like it's really important for me in my life.
Yeah,
so
I was doing an art circle yesterday, which was really awesome. It was with my friend Kima, who has a group called Unified Goddess that I've been in for a while. And she did like an online event with her group, it was really interesting. I mean, she's fantastic. So obviously she's going to attract fantastic people. And it was just really interesting. We were talking about childbirth, a beautiful thing that came out of it. One of the women in the group was had been a midwife, a nurse midwife for many years. And she made this point, which I thought was so cool. She was talking about every time I helped somebody birth, I also birthed a new part of myself. And I was just like, ooh, that is so...
I just gave chills.
Yeah.
I've been having so many images and visions and experiences lately of birthing and being in labor. And some of it has come from the sacred sexuality class. Not that we're doing anything particular on that, but like that's what has come up in like the home practices and stuff. And then like when I was at that energetic chiropractor the other day, like I was on her table and we were doing all these breathing exercises, and she was like up around my head and like had my arms out and was just like helping me open my respiratory system and open my chest. And my legs were like coming up, and I was like breathing, and I was like, I think I'm in labor. Yeah. It was such a crazy experience. And then I've been having dreams about labor, being in labor. And I'm just like, whoa, there's something going on, because it's happening in all of these different realms.
Yeah.
And the other day I was thinking about, I started putting together some stories for like, I've talked about wanting to write a book for a long time, and I've put together some stories for like starting that. And I was like, maybe I'm pregnant with a book. Like, look,
it's a real thing.
Maybe I'm pregnant with my next creative project.
It's a real thing.
Just, it is blowing my mind how I feel it in my body. It's really cool. I said that to someone. I was like, I'm pregnant with a book. And she started, hysterically laughing. She's like, actually, I believe it. I think you are.
And people can conceive those things too. I mean, it's interesting, because when I think about almost all of my major creative projects, every time there's been like a particular moment where I've had an interaction with a particular person or an experience with a particular person that somehow conceived the thing that I ended up birthing. I mean, the muse, right? The muse is a real thing. And for creative people, an important thing.
I mean, I just had this thought of like, maybe all we're really ever doing is like conceiving new versions of ourselves and birthing.
Yep.
Maybe that's all we're doing. Which is no small feat.
No.
As we know.
No.
I mean, I was like getting so into the idea of birthing that I was like, I wonder if do I want to be a doula? And I started Googling and researching doulas. And so it has like kind of put me on this exploration.
I can connect you to some people.
Do it.
I seriously know I am surrounded by doulas and midwives.
That's so interesting.
It's so interesting. They're everywhere. And they like constantly keep coming into my life more and more.
I would love connections to anybody who you think that might be just willing to chat about like how they, you know me, I'm always like interested in how people got started doing what they do. Gosh, I just feel like that's such an amazing job of like to help guide life into the world.
And every birth is a death too. So I have a friend, I was talking to her the other day. She's a nurse midwife and also a hospice nurse.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, obviously, because it's the same thing. She's like, honestly, it's the same thing.
She should do a TED Talk. Tell us all about how it's the same. Because
yeah,
I don't like to should on people, but I would personally love to hear that. I'm grateful to be in a place where spring and rebirth is happening.
Yeah.
To hold that side of the cycle, you know, for me is like, okay, what we're going through right now is like a major death of a lot of things, and to see physically and feel that there is a rebirth happening as well. Not that it feels okay, but like it feels natural. It feels natural to be experiencing both at the same time because they're both always happening. But just for my human eyes to be able to see that is certainly helpful.
What have you been doing to maintain your immune system during this time?
I have been moving my body way more than usual, and it feels so good. Taking up biking, which I never do, and I rode 20 miles today.
Wow, that's awesome.
I like accidentally rode for like 10 miles and I was like riding with the wind and I was like, this is so easy and leisurely. Awesome. And then turned around and realized, oh my gosh, I have to ride 10 miles back against the wind next to the water. But regardless, it was so gorgeous. I've been dancing a lot, which is a thing, again, that like I don't really do in my everyday life. I've been doing these Instagram live dance parties with Ryan
Heffington.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. And I want to meet him.
Yeah.
But I've been doing that.
Was on there last week.
Yeah, I missed it. It was on Wednesday. So that's been a big thing. That's been a really, really big thing. I certainly have felt like movement in a silly way as well, not in like a very, like I've been still doing some yoga, but I haven't done a ton of it, and I haven't necessarily been super called to do a ton of it. And I think I'm just needing like light, silly, free flowing movement, without a ton of instruction to move things. I think that's been helpful for my immune system. And then oh man, I've been like really getting into foraging a lot of the spring edible plants right now. So making pestos out of stinging nettles and dandelion leaves, and just like popping violets into my mouth every time I'm walking in the woods. That's felt very helpful, like on a physical and a spiritual level, of just like, you know, recognizing that these plants are here at this particular time to aid us, you know, and to kind of help us. So that's been good. And then just like trying not to really watch the news. my dad does this thing where like every time he walks out of his home office, he like states the number of deaths like at that time, like this is what it's up to now, and this, and so it's like a lot of you know, finding balance of like, you know, understanding what's going on and also countering some of that with, you know, non-COVID related reading and information. That's been huge. It's been really huge. And like doing social media, a couple like days, taking days off of Instagram and days off of Facebook, just because like you said, I mean, even the people that I follow and the sponsored ads and the information that I'm getting, even though it's like just naturally more big picture related and like ecology based and spirituality based, it still triggers my nervous system.
Yeah.
And so it's just for me, like finding that balance of like not looking away from what's happening, but also knowing like how to take care of my nervous system,
right,
and doing what I can do. I tend to just in general in life get sometimes caught up in like the grandiosity of the problems and being like, how are we going to get out of that, you know, and then it just grows and grows and grows and it seems like this impossible thing. And so I think my practice for now is like, you know, what are the tiny things that I can do to take care of myself and to, you know, be available to friends, like my circle. It's all that I can do right now.
mm-hmm.
I don't even like to say it like that, because that means like it's not enough, you know, but it is. I mean, you know, my teacher Therese, who's another good one, Therese Jornlin, she's always like, your job is to take care of this body.
Yep.
You know, this, you take care of this plant, you have your walk. And I think she has studied and become really close with a Navajo man that is always like, you know, you care for this plant, like you water this plant, you give this plant sun, you this is your job,
Mm-hmm.
nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such an interesting thing because I feel like it's, yeah, I think there's a lot of ancient cultures that would say that have their version of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we, you know, we have the kind of the sentiment that it is selfish or something like that. Right. But it's really like, that's your job. Take care of you.
Right.
And that ripples out.
Right. And because there's only one person that knows how to take care of you, and there's only one person who you know how to take care of. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, which it gets back to the whole telling people how to feel and all of that. But it's like, you only know how to take care of one person. So you better take care of, if you only know how to take care of one person, then you got to take care of the one person who you can take care of.
You had one job.
Right. That's it. That's all you have to do. Just you. You don't have to worry about everybody else. You know, it's just you.
Yeah.
Which I think seems kind of trite when you really, really, really take that in. What does it mean to truly care for yourself? Then once you start truly caring for yourself, it becomes very clear how profound and world-changing it is to change yourself. Energetically, what that is just huge.
I mean, it's the biggest thing.
It is the biggest thing. It is such a profound experience to truly decide to take care of yourself, and such a profound experience to really, you know, in as many moments as you can remember, care for you and take care and understand what that means. And with every single decision, I think every single decision, you're either caring for yourself or you're not. And what does it mean to care for yourself? And again, it can mean very different. For one person, what one person feels is caring for themselves is not what will be another person's caring for themselves. We're all different. We all need different things. Gets back to, you know, the definition of medicine. and there's different things at different times. There's no panacea, and there's no panacea for everyone. So, you know, like, it's so profound to really say, like, what does it mean for me to take care of me? What do I need right now? What's going to nourish me physically, emotionally, mentally, really? You know, it's just like so life-changing. And every single time you do it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, it becomes no less life-changing, right? It's like kind of all these different awakenings, right? It's like we're constantly awakening, right? And it's like, no, I know that I definitely had this feeling, this experience of awakening, you know, last week, last year, last decade, whatever. But this one feels like I never had another one because it's so big and so. How is this possible? Like, I know I wasn't. Like, I know that I wasn't crazy when I had that experience the last time, but like, this makes that feel like nothing happened.
Yeah, and I feel like it reminds me of you know, when I used to like bartend and stuff, and all of the drunk patrons were like, this is my favorite song, and then like 2 minutes later the next song, this is my favorite song.
Right, exactly.
This is the best song ever, or whatever. And it's just like, we actually can have these experiences that are like, this is the most life-changing experience I've ever had, and 2 weeks later something else happened, you're like, this is the most life-changing experience I've ever had.
This is the most transformative moment of your life.
I have a friend that I was going to do my yoga training 2 years ago in Thailand, and I was like he was asking me about it. He was a new friend, and we were still like very much getting to know each other, and he was asking me about the yoga training. And I was like, I know this sounds cliche, but it was life-changing. And he said something like, you don't have to put a disclaimer out there. You can have life-changing experiences whenever the hell you decide that it's a life-changing experience. And I loved that so much, because like, you know, I think, like you said, a lot of these words get diluted. If you're really talking about things that change your life, it's pretty much everything that occurs in life. It's like, it's always changing. But you have these big experiences sometimes that you're like, I don't even remember what it felt like before that. Like, this actually changed something within me so drastically that I am this new person now.
Yep.
And I just loved when he said that. And then that has stuck with me, because there's been so many of those. And, you know, I think the deeper you go into yourself and the more open you are with your exploration, there's a lot happening all the time.
All the time.
It's like, how could we ever be bored?
That's the thing.
There's a lot of shit going on.
Exactly. I mean, I had, you know, one of the most transformative weeks of my life 2 weeks ago, when I was completely all by myself for the whole week, not on social media, not communicating with anyone at all. I was like, I was just like, who needs all this outer stuff? There's so much happening. You know, I felt like the soil, and, you know, that January soil where it's like, no, you have no idea how much is really going on. All this, so much happened.
And it makes me, like, when I have experiences like that, it makes me more compassionate for the humans having the human experience, and my own experience of spending many years running, escaping, numbing, out drinking feelings, because there's so many at all times that it's like, no wonder it's tough, you know, like, and it's not, I feel like there's this kind of air of like, once you kind of get into the spiritual realm and like get these tools, like, you all of a sudden can handle the experience a lot better. For me, I feel like it's gotten more tough when you allow yourself to feel everything and not numb it and not escape it. There's a lot. And I think that it, like, for me, it's the constant practice of look at it. And that is like a challenge. That's a big challenge.
It is. And life is hard. I mean, I think this is the other, like, life is hard. I wish we could just say.
I think we're not told enough.
No,
that
and I don't think
just
because I think
not
we're
going to be
constantly
this
like,
breeze.
how can we make it easier or whatever? You know, life is hard. No matter what, life is hard. There's an immense amount of challenges. It's amazing that we manage to stay alive in these bodies as long as we manage to stay alive in these bodies. You know,
I think about that too.
like there's so many things constantly coming at us on so many different levels, and it's hard. You know, it's not easy. And of course there's many tools. We, you know, hopefully people have toolboxes and things that they can, but the whole thing is that, you know, the deeper you get, the hard, it's, you know, it's like a video game. Every level gets harder. It's not getting easier.
Yeah.
Like more shit is going to come at you the further you go. It's not, you know, it's not going to get easier. You know, it doesn't get easier when you get more money. The problems get more expensive. Life is challenging. That's why we're here. Like, I believe that's why we're in these bodies. We come into these bodies to challenge our spirits to be able to grow and change. We are here to change. We're not here to stay the same, right? Like, we are here to change. That is the point. If someone's like, oh, you've changed, good. That's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah. One of my favorite memes is like the two people that are standing and looking
Like
at
the
each other,
flowers?
and one is like, it's either you've changed or you've grown, and the one like just has a regular little flower as a head, and the other one has this like massive, you know, wild bouquet. And I'm like, that is my favorite little image that I always think about when I'm like, okay, I'm growing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's beautiful.
It is,
And
but it's hard. Like, it doesn't, you know, it's not like, and now we have this fantastic experience where we go off and we grow. Like, no, man.
No.
Growth does not feel
which I think like I do wish that more people like say that and talk about that. Like, I feel like it's like just occurring to me at 32 of like, oh, this is like these challenges aren't gonna go away.
Right.
Like, there is no like, and maybe, you know, maybe it's like part of the ego always trying to be like, okay, how do we get out of this, or how do, you know, like,
well, it's also very American. I mean, it's so American to be like, okay, we gotta get the outcome, right? Everything's outcome based, right? Everything in the United States is outcome based, which is like not how the rest of the world, I mean, certainly other places in the world that's also important, but there's, I don't think, anywhere where everything is just about the outcome, the deliverable, right? You gotta have a deliverable, there's gotta be an outcome, and, you know, let's make it as easy as possible.
Right. Efficiency.
You know, or just let's focus on, you know, the outcome, like, because the product is more important than the process, right?
Yeah.
The thing that you're creating is more important than the person you're changing.
Yeah.
Right? If whatever you're doing is not causing you to change and grow, then it's probably not the right thing for you to be doing. It's not about the product. Actually, that was another thing we were talking about, you know, during this circle last night, is like, if you're making art just to make stuff, that's not what makes you an artist. Even if you make the most beautiful things, but if the process of creating art changes you, inspires you, lights you up, you know, whatever motivates you, then that's what defines an artist. Right? That I love that. So much more about what the practice of art does to you than what you do to the practice of art.
Yeah.
Which I think could be sort of anything. It could be true of, you know, researchers, scientific researchers, doctors, you know, lawyers, healers of all kinds, you know, whoever it is. One of the things that I've been writing a lot about in my book is about, you become a teacher when you stop asking what you can teach and start asking what you can learn. Because that's the moment where you realize that teaching becomes very selfish at that point, because you're gaining more by teaching than you're offering.
Yeah.
You know, and that's, for me, that's my motivation.
Oh, I love that.
Like, it's very,
I mean, that's like,
I can get.
That just, that whole feeling to me feels like, you know, when you meet like the past couple of years, I've met many elders, you know, people in their 70s, 80s who are like so pumped on life still, and like so curious and just want to learn, and like it's just so never ending.
Yeah.
In such a beautiful way of like, there's so, you know, there's so much to learn. There's the process is never ending.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I would love, why don't you talk about some of the elders that you have met, and I think people would be really interested to hear about that, because I'm sure that most people are not familiar with the ranch and how important it's been in kind of spirituality, consciousness development in this country. So talk about that.
So the Feathered Pipe Ranch is a conscious living and healing center outside of Helena, Montana. And I came across it in 2016 when I was in a healing journey with Lyme disease, and I had done my first really long international trip to Asia with a nonprofit organization. And I had come back to the States to help my body heal. And it was this like major, I mean, like Saturn return, quarter life crisis, healing journey that was very intense. And I found the Feathered Pipe very serendipitously, as you do. And I went there for a retreat in 2016. It was a yoga retreat, and I just absolutely fell in love with the land. It's like the kind of place where they only have one retreat at a time, which makes it really special, because it's like all of the energy and resources and efforts and care is going toward your group, as opposed to like, you know, some of the larger retreat centers when there's thousands of people there at once. And super tucked in, like it's in the, you know, the Rocky Mountains, and it's just nestled in, and it's like you drive down this, you know, couple mile long road, and you get there and it opens up to this lake, and all the water you're drinking is natural spring water straight from the mountain, and it's just untouched, uninterrupted energy and land. And so they've been open since 1975, and it was given to the founder of the retreat center. So India Supera was the founder of the Feathered Pipe, and it was actually like gifted to her from the previous owners, because she had taken care of the owner, kind of was her nurse when she was passing away from cancer. Mm-hmm. And then when she passed away, she left the healing center and left the land to India and just said, like, carry this on. It wasn't actually even anything at the time. Mm-hmm. It was like a lodge that she had a vision of it being a healing center one day. So that's what India did. And she, you know, for the last 45 years has had yoga retreats, astrology, music workshops. What else have they done? They've done so many different things. Massage trainings. In the 70s and things, they did like out of body workshops with like John Lilly and Jack Swartz, teaching people how to tap into collective consciousness and all kinds of things. Just very like, you know, alternative and experiential. So I went there in 2017, and I was going to go for one retreat for 1 week. And I had this feeling that I wanted to move to Montana. So when I left Delaware, I packed up all my stuff and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to this one retreat, and then I'm going to see what happens and see where I go from there. And India ended up allowing me to stay at the retreat center for the entire summer and live in a tent in the woods, and, you know, go to sleep to the sounds of like elk bugles and, you know, deer and bear, and just, it was like such this wild land. And I got to just be there. And I had this real struggle with like, oh, what am I doing? How am I reciprocating this generosity? I mean, because it was like I was getting every meal was taken care of. I could go to the workshops, and I was doing kind of a writing exchange with them where I was going to the workshops and writing articles that were, being published in like yoga magazines and things. But I didn't feel like I was doing enough to justify staying there. And so it was this experience of just really being held and accepted and belonging to people that were just so generous.
Yeah.
It was like this massive learning of how to receive.
Yes.
And that, I think, has, to me, that happened, and that was able to happen because the people that I got really close with were, in their 70s and 80s and had lived, 100 lifetimes. I mean, they were like the Summer of Love group that was like, going to India in the 60s and traveling through like Pakistan and Afghanistan in order to get to like ashrams in India and Nepal. And so I just couldn't believe, like, I just felt like I had never really had this experience of like not having interactions necessarily be some type of transaction.
Yeah.
Where like all they were asking was like, just be here.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything else. And I think a lot of it came from that grandparent elderly energy from India and from BJ, her sister, and Howard and Tom. And Tom has now become like, I call him my Montana dad because he is like another parent, grandparent to me. And I just didn't realize like how much I needed that energy.
Yeah.
Like, I had a set of grandparents growing up that were very nurturing, but this was like a whole nother level of just being seen and heard and just so valued and appreciated just for like being me.
Yeah.
And it was transformative. It was really transformative. And so that was 2017. And I've been, like I spent 2018, I did my yoga training, but then last year, 2019, I spent a month there again. And I'm working with them now to archive stories because so India passed away in October of last year, and their 45th anniversary is this summer. And so I'm working with them to interview people and to collect stories of teachers that have taught there and staff members and people who have been on the board, and just, start to really preserve the essence of the Feathered Pipe Ranch, because it has changed so many people's lives. And I realized like I was having this unique individual experience having gone there and spent the summer. And of course, a lot of people don't do that, but even a lot of the other people that I've spoken with have had a similar experience going there for workshops or going there for a personal retreat, where it's like something about the people, something about the land and the energy that's been cultivated and preserved there for the last 45 years allows you to unwind and to receive in a way that we typically have our guard up in everyday life, like we typically aren't open to receiving in that way in everyday life. I mean, the people have really, for whatever reason, I was guided there, and I just feel so strongly that it's like it's been such an integral part of my growth and my becoming. So I don't know, I'm like really excited to be able to give back to them in the way of writing articles and interviewing people. And it's just so incredible to me. Like I interviewed a guy last week his name is R. Carlos Nakai, and he's a internationally famous Native American flute player. And he held workshops at the ranch for like 20 years, starting in the early 90s. And what he had to say about India and being friends with her and kind of being under her, you know, in her care.
Mm-hmm.
And what he had to say about the ranch was like so incredibly amazing. And every single person I talk to has this similar experience of just being so moved by their experience there. It's really special place, a really, really special place. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this summer with workshops and retreats, but they truly were at the forefront of the kind of counterculture movement in the US. Like I said, they were like teenagers in the 60s.
Yeah.
I think, somewhere around there. And world travelers before anybody was traveling.
Yeah.
Which is just like stories for days. And I think, you know, you mentioned the importance of storytelling. And I just think like one thing that I find so important, especially now, is sitting with elders and sitting with people and listening to stories.
Yeah.
And listening to what it was like growing up, you know, in a different era, and what are the similarities and what are the differences. And it just so broadens your horizons. Like I can remember one of the things that I think was so transformative about cultivating these relationships with with Tom and India and Howard was that they had been through so much in their lives that, you know, I'm having my quarter life crisis at 27 and I'm freaking out like it's the end of the world. And they are so calm and so sure that I'm going to be okay, and so affirming that it just like infused me with this sense of just like well-being, you know. It was like, you're exactly where you need to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, the more that I learn about indigenous cultures and just ancient traditions of having these thresholds and these markers of initiation and of just growth, it's like, that is what they were doing for me. Where I was kind of, my body had gone into initiation of illness and of extreme change and challenge. They were the elders that I needed to be there to say, you're on your path.
Right, to guide you through.
To guide me through. Because I felt like I didn't have that. I mean, I was clawing and grasping and seeking for that in so many different places. So that, I mean, yeah, I could go on and on about the ranch, but it certainly was like the grace and generosity of the elders that really made my experience there. So check it out. It's such an awesome place.
What are you, I mean, you talked a little bit about what you're excited about with the human design stuff. What are you excited about in terms of the future? So what are you visualizing for the future, for yourself, for the world, for what is like some exciting beauty for the future that you are seeing right now that you'd like to share with people?
I heard this song yesterday for the first time on the new Avett Brothers album that's called The New Woman's World, I think it's called.
Okay.
And I got so excited that the Avett Brothers are singing about the new world that is in the care of women.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, like there's been so much talk about like the rising feminine and like the rising divine feminine. And I think that's like, to me, it's kind of taken a while to understand like what that means to be integrating the feminine. And it's happening. And there are so many things external things that I'm seeing that is like, oh, it is happening.
Yeah.
That to me is really, really exciting. I also just read Glennon Doyle's book Untamed and got so fired up.
A must read.
I got so fired up, and there's like something that happens, like it's happening right now in my body where I just get like, it's almost just like this like juice, It's like I get so excited when I think about women understanding all of who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a she man woman haters club. No, it's not the opposite of that. It's not like the woman man haters club. It is this like really exciting to me to think how things are changing as women step into themselves in a way that is like so all encompassing and so inclusive of everything that they are and everything that men are as well. It's like we're all doing it together. So it's weird because like I don't necessarily know like how my work will fit into that, but I'm doing it within myself.
I was going to say, don't you think it doesn't matter what work you do? Like I always say, long as you are fulfilling the destiny of who you're meant to be, then every single thing that you do is fulfilling your destiny. Yes. Because it's about who you are, not what you do, right? And so it's like, if you are being all of who you are, that is the work.
And it becomes what you do, because it is everything that you are, and everything that you do
everything that you do is imbued with that essence. Yeah.
For now, like I'm focused on doing that within myself and bringing myself to whatever it is that's happening. I was like a couple months ago involved with that girls volunteer program in Missoula. And that was something that like I was so surprised to really love that, because I don't typically, like, I don't have much experience with working with youth. Mm-hmm. And this program, it's called Girls Using Their Strengths. Mm-hmm. And it was so exciting to me to be part of a program that was being that guide for younger people. And that to me seems like, oh, even if it's, volunteer based or whatever it is, like being involved with youth so that they're growing up with these ideas rather than coming to them at 20, 30, 40 years old, which is fine too. Cause it's like, we're all, you'll come to it when you do it. Yeah. But that was like really exciting too. That something like that even exists. And I think for my future, being a part of causes like that and organizations like that really have that vision of guiding girls into really self-aware and amazing women that can just kind of continue to be that. So that's really, I mean, that's like big picture. One of the things that I was part of my human design actually, which was hilarious because I was like, that's spot on, was saying like when I am really caught up in like the how, I am like outside of my natural motivation and my natural energy. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like you just said, if that's what you're excited about, the how doesn't really matter. At the very least, don't kill yourself over figuring it out.
The job is to say this is what you want and then let go of the rest. You gotta let go of how it's going to happen, because you try to obsess over how it's going to happen, it's not going to happen. Yep. Because that's why our desires are transformative, because the desire to have the particular thing, the process through which one has to go in order to receive the thing that one desires, is the transformation of allowing that thing to happen. Right? It's like, which is, lovely to say. And one of those other things where it's like,
Easier said than done.
You know, this is what I was really trying to get into when I said I wanted that thing. Like I always say, be careful what you ask for, because
That's another thing that that's another one of your phrases that I always tell myself is like, be careful what you ask for.
thank you so much for visiting Hilary's house.
You are welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course.
Sorry, it's like gotten super dark here.
It's cool. Actually, you look very cool in this lighting.
Well, thanks for inviting me to Hilary's house. This was so fun.
Of course. You'll be back.
I will be back. I'm
You'll be
available. Enjoy the rest of your night.
You too.
Okay, I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.